General Hospital spoilers reveal that one of the latest shocks shaking Port Charles involves the discovery of undeniable evidence about Kristina's bipolar disorder. After years of erratic behavior and impulsive decisions, which were considered personality traits, a series of recent events have forced doctors to conduct a comprehensive psychological evaluation of Kristina. The results confirmed what many had suspected. Kristina Corinthos Davis has bipolar disorder type I, the same condition that plagued her father and late brother Morgan. The new imposition is escalating as Kristina faces this diagnosis and the limitations it brings. She is coming to terms with a new reality, one where every intense emotion, every impulsive decision could be a sign of pathology rather than just a normal reaction. Doctors have recommended a strict treatment regimen, including mood stabilizers, therapy, and lifestyle changes. For someone like Kristina, who has always prided herself on her independence and strength, these demands feel like invisible chains tightening around her. Kristina struggles with the feeling of losing control over her life. She begins to doubt every decision and emotion, questioning whether it's the real her or just a manifestation of the illness. This leads to heated arguments with her family, especially with her mother, Alexis, who is trying her best to support her daughter but inadvertently makes Kristina feel overly controlled. Sonny is experiencing severe emotional distress as he realizes that after Morgan, Kristina is the next child of his to inherit this genetic condition. The pain of losing Morgan to bipolar disorder is still fresh, and now Sonny faces the fear that history might repeat itself with Kristina. He continually blames himself for passing the illness on to his children, especially as he looks back on the signs he missed over the years, Kristina's unusual outbursts of anger, reckless decisions, and deep depressive episodes. Sonny begins spending more time with Kristina, trying to share his own experiences of coping with the illness. He tells her about his darkest moments, how he learned to recognize warning signs and control symptoms. However, their relationship becomes strained as Kristina starts blaming Sonny for passing the gene on to her. A new danger is emerging as Kristina, still in denial and not fully adhering to her treatment plan, begins showing signs of a severe manic episode. She has started planning revenge against those she believes have harmed her family, with Ava Jerome at the top of the list. But unlike last time, Kristina is planning more systematically and secretly, using her intelligence and manipulative skills inherited from both her parents. Kristina begins gathering information about Ava's business dealings, looking for weaknesses and gaps she can exploit. She also starts approaching people who have grudges against Ava, seeking allies in her revenge plot. What's concerning is that Kristina doesn't realize her actions are putting her in danger, inadvertently getting involved in illegal activities and dangerous relationships. Sonny, with his own experience of the illness, starts recognizing the warning signs. He is trying to approach his daughter cautiously, knowing that one wrong move could push her further away and into a more dangerous situation. He secretly contacts doctors and even Jason, the one he trusts most, to help monitor and protect Kristina from herself. Jason, with his calm demeanor and sharp observational skills, has started following Kristina from a distance. He notices changes in her behavior, secret meetings, suspicious phone calls, and abrupt changes in her daily routines. Jason reports back to Sonny, and they begin making plans to intervene before things spiral out of control. Meanwhile, Alexis is grappling with her own feelings of guilt and helplessness. As a successful lawyer and a mother who always strives to protect her children, she feels like she has failed for not recognizing the signs of this illness sooner. She begins researching bipolar disorder deeply, searching for any treatments that might help her daughter. However, Alexis' efforts inadvertently make Kristina feel more like a patient than a daughter. As the situation grows more serious, the question is no longer whether Kristina has bipolar disorder, but whether her family can help her get through this dangerous phase before she causes irreparable harm to herself or those around her. Sonny, Alexis, and Jason are facing a huge challenge. How to intervene and help Kristina without pushing her further away or triggering a more severe crisis. For Sonny, this is not just a fight to save his daughter, but also an opportunity to make amends for the mistakes he feels he made with Morgan, a chance he cannot afford to lose again. He begins seeking help from top psychiatric professionals. ready to use all his resources and power to ensure Kristina receives the best care possible. As the story continues to unfold, General Hospital fans are anxiously awaiting to see if Kristina can overcome this challenge and if the Corinthos family can unite to help her in her battle against this mental illness. One thing is for sure, this story will open up new possibilities for character development and create dramatic situations in the upcoming episodes. Kristina has caused a terrible shock in Port Charles as the truth about Liz and Rick's deaths slowly comes to light. What was initially thought to be a tragic accident is now being reinvestigated with new evidence pointing to Kristina as the real perpetrator. The obsession is higher than ever as the Port Charles community faces the reality that a member of the Corinthos family is responsible for the deaths of two beloved people in the city. Details of the case are slowly being revealed. Kristina, in a severe manic episode of her bipolar disorder, believed that Liz and Rick were plotting against her family. She had been following them for weeks, recording every action and building a paranoid story of betrayal. On that fateful night, Kristina broke into Liz's home, where she and Rick were having a quiet evening. What happened next remains unclear, but the result was a fire that claimed both their lives. While Kristina escaped with minor burns and a fabricated story about trying to save them. As things spiral further, one of the latest developments is the response of the Corinthos family to this truth. Sonny, who has faced the consequences of his own bipolar disorder, is struggling between his love for his daughter and his moral responsibility to those who lost their lives. He secretly hires the best lawyers and begins preparing for the possibility that Kristina will face the judicial system. At the same time, he is also looking for the best psychiatric facilities, hoping that his daughter can be considered mentally incompetent at the time of the crime. Alexis, as both a lawyer and Kristina's mother, is facing a personal and professional crisis. She knows her daughter needs help, but she also understands that justice must be served for Liz and Rick. This conflict is tearing Alexis apart, and whispers about Sonny's crazy daughter start to spread. Cameron and Aiden, Liz's children, are demanding justice for their mother, while Molly, Kristina's sister and Rick's niece, is torn between her love for her sister and the pain of losing her beloved uncle. This is proving to be one of the new madnesses that Kristina can no longer control herself. When faced with the charges and evidence, Kristina falls into a chaotic mental state. She fluctuates between completely denying any involvement in Liz and Rick's deaths and rare moments of clarity when she realizes what she has done. In these moments of clarity, the pain and guilt are so overwhelming that Kristina attempts suicide twice, forcing the family to place her under 24/7 surveillance. Doctors at Port Charles General Hospital are struggling to stabilize Kristina's condition. They've tried many different medications, but finding the right combination is a long and complicated process. Each time the medication doesn't work, Kristina falls into a new manic or depressive episode, making treatment even more difficult. In a shocking turn of events, Kristina manages to escape her surveillance during a moment of carelessness and disappears from Port Charles. This triggers a statewide manhunt, with Sonny mobilizing all available resources to find his daughter before she can harm herself or others. Jason, with his tracking skills and vast network of information, leads the search effort, while Dante uses his position in law enforcement to tap into official resources. As the search continues, the big questions remain. Will Kristina be found before it's too late? Can she receive the help she needs to cope with her mental illness and the consequences of her actions? And can the Corinthos family overcome this challenge? Or will this be the event that finally tears them apart? Meanwhile, the Port Charles community is facing the aftermath of this tragedy. The hospital, where Liz worked for many years, held an emotional memorial, with many colleagues and patients sharing memories of the devoted nurse. The law office, where Rick was once an important partner, has placed a portrait of him in the main lobby. And at the school where Liz's children attend, a scholarship has been established in her name to support students who want to pursue a career in medicine. As Port Charles continues to face the aftermath of this tragedy, one thing is clear: none of them will ever be the same. The deaths of Liz and Rick, along with Kristina's mental collapse, have left deep wounds in the soul of the town, wounds that may never fully heal. Kristina was not treated promptly, a mistake that now the entire Port Charles has to bear the disastrous consequences of. The signs of bipolar disorder had been present for many years. From abnormal anger outbursts to dangerous impulsive decisions, but they were overlooked or mistaken as personality traits rather than symptoms of a serious mental illness. By the time the diagnosis was finally made, the illness had progressed to a dangerous level, and treatment became much more complicated than it would have been if it had been detected earlier. One of the new adjustments that is taking place is how the Corinthos family and the Port Charles community perceive mental health. Sonny, who has struggled with his own bipolar disorder for years, is blaming himself for not recognizing the signs in his daughter earlier. He has started speaking publicly about the importance of early detection and timely treatment for mental health issues, hoping that his family's tragedy can help others avoid a similar fate. A new characteristic that is emerging in Kristina's behavior is the extreme fluctuations between her psychological states. In her moments of clarity, she feels deep guilt over the deaths of Liz and Rick, even attempting to write apology letters to their families. But in an instant, she can shift to a delusional state, believing that she is the victim of a grand conspiracy and that people are trying to blame her for deaths she didn't cause. This fluctuation makes treatment extremely difficult, as doctors never know which version of Kristina they will face from day to day. As Kristina's condition continues to deteriorate, one of the new adjustments to her treatment plan has been proposed: electroconvulsive therapy, ECT. This is a controversial treatment method but is sometimes effective for severe cases of bipolar disorder that don't respond to medication. Sonny and Alexis faced a difficult decision. Should they allow their daughter to undergo a treatment that could cause significant side effects, including memory loss? While the family is considering their options, Kristina lost control during a severe panic attack. After a nightmare about Liz and Rick, she woke up in a state of extreme panic, believing that they were coming back to seek revenge. In a desperate attempt to escape the ghosts chasing her, Kristina broke the window in her hospital room and climbed out, even though she was on the 5th floor. What happened next became one of the darkest moments in recent history of Port Charles. Despite the efforts of security and nurses to stop her, Kristina, in her extreme panic, didn't heed their warnings. She continued to move along the narrow ledge, convinced this was the only way to escape the ghosts chasing her, when a strong wind blew through. Kristina lost her balance and fell, ending her short and tragic life right before Sonny's horrified eyes, who had just arrived at the hospital to visit her. This new disaster sent a wave of sorrow and self-questioning throughout Port Charles. Sonny, who had already witnessed the death of his son Morgan and now his daughter Kristina, both related to bipolar disorder, fell into a deep depression. He blamed himself for not doing enough to protect his children from the illness he knew all too well. Alexis, having lost her second daughter after Molly, turned to alcohol again, spiraling into a cycle of self-destruction. The medical community in Port Charles also had to face difficult questions about how they handled Kristina's case. Could they have done anything differently to prevent this tragedy? Does the system have enough resources to deal with such severe mental health cases? And what can society learn from Kristina's death to prevent similar tragedies in the future? As Port Charles prepares for Kristina's funeral, a wave of change begins to form. Sonny, though deeply grieving, has decided to establish a research and treatment fund for bipolar disorder in the names of Morgan and Kristina. Alexis, with the support of Sam and Molly, is struggling to regain her clarity and strength to continue living. And the Port Charles community, once again facing a great loss, is learning how to come together and support each other in this dark time. Kristina's death is not only the end of a life but also a wake-up call about the importance of early recognition and timely treatment of mental health issues. It is a tragedy that could have been prevented if the signs had been recognized earlier and if the stigma surrounding mental illness hadn't prevented people from seeking help when they needed it. As Port Charles continues to cope with the aftermath of this tragedy, they are also learning how to become stronger, more understanding, and more willing to help those who are struggling with similar challenges. Sonny is going through an indescribable pain as he witnesses the death of Kristina, his second child whom he must bury. This pain is not only an emotional loss but also a severe mental shock for Sonny, who has struggled with his own bipolar disorder throughout his life. One of the new forms of madness emerging is how Sonny is coping with this pain. He begins to exhibit abnormal behaviors, oscillating between deep depression and uncontrollable outbursts of anger. There are moments when Sonny sobs uncontrollably in Kristina's room, holding on tightly to her belongings. Other times, he erupts in rage, smashing things and threatening to get revenge on those he believes failed to save his daughter. The new oppression emerging is when Sonny begins blaming everyone around him for Kristina's death. He accuses the doctors of not treating her properly, accuses Carly of not caring enough for Kristina, and even blames Jason for not keeping a closer watch on Kristina. This oppression is not only affecting those closest to Sonny but also spreading throughout Port Charles as he begins using his power and influence to punish those he feels are responsible. This is demonstrating one of the new types of madness Sonny is going through, as he starts making dangerous and unpredictable decisions. He begins drinking heavily, neglecting his bipolar medication, and making impulsive business decisions that could jeopardize his empire. Sonny even begins plotting revenge against Ava, the person he believes is partly responsible for Morgan's death, and now, according to his twisted logic, must also be responsible for Kristina's death. Carly and Jason, those closest to Sonny, are struggling to control the situation. They try to convince Sonny to return to treatment, but every effort is forcefully rejected by him. Sonny begins distancing himself from his loved ones, believing that only he truly understands the pain he is going through. Sonny's condition is becoming a threat not only to himself but to Port Charles as well. With his power and influence, an unstable Sonny could cause severe consequences for the whole city. His enemies are starting to recognize this weakness and are planning to exploit the situation to overthrow the Corinthos Empire. As the situation continues to escalate, the big question remains: can Sonny overcome this emotional storm, or will he become the next victim of the tragedy that is overwhelming the Corinthos family? Carly, Jason, and the rest of the family are facing a huge challenge. How can they save Sonny from himself while also protecting the legacy he has built? Port Charles is on the brink of a new crisis, with Sonny Corinthos, one of the most powerful figures in the city, slowly losing control. Will the city be able to bear another tragedy? Or will this be the tipping point for a series of events that could forever change the face of Port Charles?